Black powder hunting loads for the rebuilt Brunswick rifle. William Hovey Smith, 2014. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzleloading, and here we have to return to black powder to get consistent, reliable loads. This is Hovey Smith, the backyard sportsman, and we are returning to our adventures with the Brunswick rifle. Now, I have many previous videos about the Brunswick rifles. This rifle is an original. It was bought from Atlanta Cutlery as a very much used and abused and ill-stored gun, restored somewhat to at least shooting condition, and I did manage to take a deer with it at Hard Labor Creek State Park, and all these adventures are previously recorded. Now, these guns are from the Royal Arsenal of Nepal, and they were actually made in Nepal, although after a British pattern. And some of the parts, I suspect, in the lock are actually British, but the barrels and the assembly and many other parts are not. However, they did offer a parts gun, and that is what this gun is. And it consisted, when received, of just the gun from about here forward. This part of the stock was completely gone. The trigger guard was broken. The lock was functional but pretty cruddy. The barrel the same way. But when I looked at it, the condition of the interior of the barrel made me think that maybe I could restore this gun to shooting condition by restocking it. And so that's exactly what I did. In another series of videos, I show how I restocked this gun. Now, when I restocked, I had a problem, and that is replacing this patch box. I finally did get a patch box from Atlanta Cutlery. They now offer replacement patch boxes for this gun. And one of the problems I had was finding the latch mechanism right here and how to install it. Well, I finally figured it out. There are two different mechanisms which were used. This one is a very simple one. It consists just of a spring with a hook on it. Now, this patch box is not very elegant as patch boxes go, nor is it waterproof to any appreciable degree. Anything in here is going to get wet. Nonetheless, it was handy because it stored, naturally enough, patches. And so we have developed a patched belted ball load for this gun. Now, this gun is distinctive in that it and a few other rifles of its era, that is the 1850s, used belted balls which have a welt around the ball. These fit into two grooves in the bore, and so as you run the ball down, you turn the bullet, and of course it's patched all the way down in. This technology was used for more or less 15-20 years, and then it was replaced by the much more efficient mini-ball type of projectile in guns used largely during the American Civil War and later. However, in Nepal, they made these guns. They did not appreciate their use or their manufacture very well, however. This gun was so ill bored that it cut every patch I put down in it until I actually rebored it out to remove two sharp ridges that were along the rifling grooves. They just shredded the patches. And in the Royal Arsenal of Nepal, despite hundreds of these guns being found, not one belted ball was recovered from the arsenal. These guns were shot with 75 caliber round balls, which means they were extremely inaccurate. So my challenge is to make this gun into something that I can reasonably hunt with, and I've done a number of things along the way. Besides the mechanics of making the rifle shootable again, we have installed a rear sight that is adjustable and a much taller front sight. Now, this enables me to shoot to the point of aim at 50 yards and 100 yards and so on. So this is very capable. And this works. I have tested it and done some preliminary shooting with it already, and it does just fine. About loads. Thinking that 777 would allow a combustion of less powder in this relatively short barrel, I tried it. And I actually worked up a load that seemed to shoot, but then I took it hunting. And guess what? I missed what I was shooting at 50 yards. Yeah, I had a deer out there and completely missed it. Why? 777 powder, the granular 777, has one problem. It is hygroscopic. It will absorb atmospheric water. And it has been wet in the extreme in Georgia during this early part of the hunting season. And this gun was exposed to wet and moisture for nearly a week. And then when it shot, the load sort of blooped. Well, somewhat more than that. But obviously it developed much less velocity than it did when I first targeted it at the range. Consequently, the bullet flew high, missed the deer, tromp, 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 tromp. So this missed its deer. This gun, on the other hand, got its deer because there had been much less time between the loading and the shooting. So consequently, I'm going to go back to the old traditional black powder load for this. Even so, I have to be meticulous about it. What I'm going to use here is 95 grains of Goex FFG. Now this is fresh powder, freshly poured from that, so I'm absolutely sure this is fine. And this has a fairly coarse grain compared to some other FFG black powders. Even though they have the same granulation, so-called, some of them are finer than others. I have some powder made in Slovakia, for example, that is FFG that is finer than this. It's sort of between this grade of FFG and FFG. Okay, powder charge. Now that goes down the bore, as straight down the bore as I can pour it. Okay, all down there. Then we use a wad, 11 gauge wads. These are available from Dixie Gun Works. And it fits, as you hear, somewhat into the bore. But remember, this has two grooves on it too. So this is not a bore tight fit. Crunch, crunch. Then we go back to the ancient arts indeed, and we add some cream of wheat filler. Why? This compresses somewhat and helps further seal the bore. It also helps to absorb any lubricant from the patch and keeping that lubricant from spoiling the powder. Now for patches, we actually use two in this gun. We use a lubricated patch, and the lubricated patch goes down. That is from a canvas drop cloth, and then we have a pillow ticking patch on top of that. Why? Well, because that's what we need to get a good seal with this particular ball in this particular bore. Okay, that's a good ball with no obvious blemishes. That helps. We index the ball into the grooves. Push it down with the fingers. If it doesn't go with the fingers, it ain't in the right place, guys. Okay? Seat it with the short starter. Okay? Ramrod. Now all the way down. And that is loaded. This particular gun takes number 10 caps, and I'm shooting Remington number 10s on it. Now these are the new hotter Remington number 10s, same size but a little more oomph than the older ones. This gun, on the other hand, has a musket cap nipple. Why? NCOs and those who carried pistols, revolvers, wanted to use the same percussion caps. They didn't want to be bothered with having to fiddle with two different styles of caps in the middle of combat. And these guns saw combat, by the way. See this split right here? That represents 2 sword strikes. Yeah, these guns were used for serious work. So we're going to take the gun out now and shoot it and target it with this black powder load that'll be more stable and will be the load I will use on future hunts. We're going to shoot our first shot here with the Brunswick rifle and 95 grains of FFG GoX black powder. And I've got a target down there on a box. It's a 6-inch bullseye on a sheet of typing paper, which is on a box that's about 2 feet by 2 feet square. So somewhere in there we should have the hit of a ball. Now that should be pretty stable, I'm thinking. Yeah. Wang. Yep. Now that developed some energy. And it hit the target. And it's up at the upper left corner. This gun is telling me that it really wants to do this. Now here is what I picked up, just like I picked it up off the range. There's the wad, there's the first patch, and there's the second patch. Yeah, this is giving a reasonable gas seal in this combination, and it's actually spinning the bullet. So, yeah, we're doing good. I'm going to make a side adjustment and move it, in fact, back a little bit where I had it. Just hold well enough, we'll get it done, I think. Dead on. 5 shots were fired during this initial shooting event. Now these Brunswick rifles are not particularly good guns, and you use them at your own risk. Now work up these loads cautiously. Now have more video following which will actually show the shooting results and discuss them in more detail, so we aren't done yet. Hang in with me. It is the next day in central Georgia, although you would not know it from any change in the weather. This is the target that we were shooting with the Brunswick rifle. This is where the first shot hit. The second and third hit here. This was the fourth. I made a lateral adjustment, and the fifth one hit here. Actually, I would have said it would have hit about there. So this group is low. So I have made more lateral adjustment this way and also given it a little elevation. I feel confident enough. I'm going to try for this watermelon, which is about the size and shape of the vital area of a deer. So the gun has been freshly cleaned, dried, and loaded. And this is a very significant shot because it's these loads from clean, dry guns that are really significant. If I adjust after the 4th or 5th or 6th shot, the gun has been well filed by then, and it may shoot appreciably differently than it does from a clean bore. That shot registered a hit on the watermelon. And it hit right here. And I was aiming here. That is not too bad. It's still apparently shooting a bit on the low side. And also still perhaps a bit to the left. But with one shot with this rifle, yeah, I'd call that one in the kill zone. These results gave me sufficient encouragement to take the gun actually out hunting the next day. Well, I haven't actually made that hunt as I record this, so you'll be hearing about that one a little bit later. Now, besides extreme muzzleloading, I feature muzzleloading also in backyard deer hunting. I also have a series of muzzleloading e-books. Now, these include muzzleloaders for hunters, shooting and maintaining your muzzleloader, hunting big and small game with muzzleloading pistols, and forthcoming will be building your own muzzleloader, where I talk more about the Brunswick rifle. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 450 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoviesmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.